Hello, everyone. Welcome to week three of discussion board. This is James Rosas, and I'm going to be discussing the organizational, bureaucratic, and motivational theories. Going over a brief overview, what we'll be discussing today. First, we will go over Luther Gulick, Robert Merton, and Abraham Maslow, and I will have a couple closing comments. Starting off with Luther Gillick on page 109, paragraph 2, the coordination of work. And it is under this section that he talks about the span of control. And he describes that there are three main factors that influence the division of work and how many subordinates or employees can be under a manager. It is very important to decide this in order to run efficiently and effectively, right? So the first is the diversification of function. And he briefly describes that if the position is routine, repetitive, and measurable, the owner can actually be more effective in managing a group of employees, and span of control would go straight to them because it is something that calculable, something very easy that you can manage. But if the function is very diverse and has a lot of moving parts, only one man can supervise a few workers at a time because there are too many moving parts in order to watch and to manage. So they must rely on other managers, to ensure that their efficiency, right? The second would be the element of time. And depending on how long it would take for the function to be complete, will also impact the availability of the CEO to manage that group of employees. So if you're making a shoe and you have to cut the leather, you have to nail in the heel, and each person has to do one whole shoe from start to finish, that could take a whole day to do, 100 shoes. So if that's too time consuming, the CEO would not be able to handle that time, right? And must rely on their managers. The third thing would be the element of space. If a company is based in one building or location, then it is easier to watch over those subordinates and supervise them than an organization with multiple locations. And essentially, he's saying that you can only be in one place at one time. Your eyes can't be everywhere. And it's here that Gulick says that you need to recognize these three variables in order to properly delegate that span of control without the organization becoming messy, right? Due to time constraint or due to anything else that could or be a hindrance for them, right? And per my experience, the larger the business, the further away I got from the CEO manager. And so I had to rely on my manager and director for further knowledge and training. And it was here I saw, the company span of control, and I saw firsthand, right, the chain of command and basically how it worked. Next, we're going to go over Robert Merton, and on page 120, paragraphs 5 and 6, he briefly goes over bureaucracy and the bureaucratic structure and personality. And it is here he describes that essentially the bureaucrat's life is planned for him in terms of a graded career. And this is basically attained through the organization's devices of like promotion or permission or pensions or like salary raises. And these are designed incentives as long as the individual conforms to the regulations of the organization. So it's very important that they follow the rules and regulations and then they get those incentives. And it is clear that the individual will more than likely abide by these in order to keep those incentives and not lose them, right? Problem is that even if an organization may want you to critically think, that person typically will not act on it due to the incentive loss, right? So they don't want their chance of losing that. So they're actually going to conform to the bureaucratic structure. They're not going to risk that possibility of losing those rewards. Um, this is more along the lines of behavior conditioning, I thought. And although it's a certain, way and a good process to have in an organization to provide the same results, right? Same customer service, same outcomes and everything like that. There may be times where critically thinking outside of the organization will be needed. And in the bureaucratic structuring, it doesn't allow you that opportunity to do that. And last would be Abraham Maslow on page 128, paragraphs 7 and 8. This is the hierarchy of needs. And it is here that Maslow points out the sociological needs, like having food or water, are the most important basically than any other needs to fulfill. He explains that although these are crucial needs, they can be easily misunderstood. And for example, filling the need of hunger could in part be satisfied like smoking cigarettes or seeking comfort or drinking water, right? Than, consuming vitamins or protein. And this tells me that although that other needs must be met in order to grow, be fulfilled as a person, in all probability, hunger for food will be sought out over any other need. So, especially in extreme conditions. And I see this as very important because that first one basically drives our actions for all other things, right? Especially in the hierarchy of needs. Um, And in some instances, I remember like I've had managers that would buy us pizza every Friday or have snacks for anyone's to take at any day. And so it like subconsciously fulfills that need and that we don't realize. And we can actually move to the next, hierarchical needs, right? And although these sociological needs have to be met, this need in particular can be definitely manipulated with food, right? By motivation, stimulation, or even persuasion, right? For each person. In closing, these three fundamental ideals, from the organizational to the bureaucratic and the motivational, are all the backbone of the workplace. And it is necessary for the individual to have and understand each one of these in order to be efficient, effective, and competent.